My name is Elise Beckles, and everyone has a story. I believe that evolving takes place when we tell these stories. I felt a heart tug to position myself as a growth conduit, both of myself and of others. We evolve by telling our stories, which hopefully encourages others around us to do the same. Join me as we evolve. Trician Renee is my friend. A good one at that. Not very often do we get to sit down with our friends and understand their entire life story. I've been privileged enough to walk through some of Trician Renee's story with her in recent years. But sitting down with her and understanding the peaks and the valleys that she's had to walk through was an entirely different experience. When I think of Trician Renee, I think of resilience, I think of compassion, I think of strength. I am uber excited to be sitting down with Trician Renee, affectionately known as Renee to me and close family members and friends. Renee, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Thank you so much for inviting me. I was excited from the moment that you asked me to be here, and I'm just grateful that I'm able to make it and chat with you today.
That's fantastic, and you look amazing.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you so much. So how has the pandemic been treating you? How has beginning of 2020 to now, what's been happening with Renee?
Prior to the pandemic, I was already going through a lot of transitions, and so pandemic in the beginning hit me pretty hard. It was very challenging to kind of maneuver through because I live by myself, and being told that you couldn't visit family and friends really stopped some of the progression that I was having and kind of put me at a halt at first. But once I caught my bearings, I would say that the pandemic is probably one of the best things that has happened for me.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of people say that. I feel like a lot of people are thriving, even though there's the pandemic going on. There's a lot of internal thriving. So can you just let me know, like, what is that benefit you speak of? What's been positive in this crisis?
So you hit the nail right on the head. I really learned how to love myself. I really learned how to appreciate myself during this pandemic. And I don't think that the work that I was doing on myself would have been as beneficial or that I would have flourished as much as I did without having to actually sit still and be with myself and really dig through some of the things that were causing issues for me.
Yeah. And that's a good thought. I will share that you and I first connected on a similar trauma. When I first met you, I had probably just lost my mom.
Yes.
And I had known you through acquaintance, but I didn't really know you. And just through, it's not happenstance, it's just through divine orchestration, we happened to meet and develop a close friendship. And I've never probably shared this with you, but I consider you one of my soulmates. And I always believe that soulmates are not always this romantic or this fairy tale connection. I believe that we experience soulmates and the feelings of that through people and through friendship. So understanding that I was going through a loss and you had lost your mom when you were 4 years old, I believe, our experiences, while similar, were vastly different. So how has that particular experience affected you?
Well, first of all, I want to say that the feeling is mutual. I definitely feel that soulmate connection with you. And you're actually one of the first people that identified how the loss of my mother actually, how I navigate through the world differently because of that was from an encounter with you.
Wow.
So from what I remember, we did know each other, yes, through acquaintances and also because we were working at Parks and Rec. So we would cross paths a lot. And then your mom had passed away shortly after we started, having just regular hi and bye conversation. And then you reached out to me one day and you said, just a truth moment, how do you do this? And it was in that moment that I realized, wow, I'm actually able to impact other people because of something that had negatively affected me, or at least I thought so. One of the things that I find is I learned how to be compassionate to people at such a young age. Children would be playing on the playground and someone falls and gets hurt and everyone else is still running around, and I would always be the one to stop and say, hey, are you okay? Or get up, you can still keep going. While everyone else was like, those things were not an issue for them. So I think that that's the main way that my mom's passing affected me, was just to learn how to be present and how to be compassionate to others, because you never know what people are going through.
Right. And I appreciate that. I didn't expect to get there today emotionally, but thank you for sharing your heart in that moment. And one thing for me, so having lost my mom in my early 20s, that was still a transitional period. That's when we're understanding what it's like to be a woman, or trying to figure out even identity and just understanding who you are. And for most people, they have that example, or even a female figure they would look to for that guidance, for that support. But you not having your mom, what do you think that affected your transition into womanhood? Do you feel that now looking back? Did you feel that then?
Absolutely. I feel it more so now. I didn't realize it as I was navigating, but the one thing I will say is the Most High protected me in so many different ways.
Yeah.
God, our Father, sent mothers through friends. I had a stepmother. Her family was so embracing of me. I would say my longest childhood friend, the first memory I have of an actual motherhood experience was, and this might be a bit TMI, but I'm going to go there. So in grade 7, I got my period.
Yeah.
No one spoke to me about this.
Yeah.
And I told her, and this happened at school, and she said, don't worry about it. I'm going to take you home and we'll get you cleaned up. And she gave me the whole rundown. So saying this to say, you never expect that someone that's your age would actually be able to be like a mother figure in that moment. And now just looking back, that just showed me that God always sends you what you need when you need it. So to me, that was, although a friend was like a mother in that moment.
For sure. And I don't think, that's beautiful what you brought out. Not very often do you even see a peer as having that potential, but for that childhood friend to provide that to you, which even shows you were just looking for that source, and that's drawn from different places, which I think could be encouraging to other people. Just, even if you have experienced that, God does provide different outlets, different sources to kind of build you back or provide that model for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now just thinking of it, I shouldn't be ashamed to say that, and that's the thing. Some of our childhood rearing teaches us that we shouldn't speak about personal things, but everyone goes through this.
It's human, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're human beings.
Part of being human, part of being a woman.
That's right.
It's a big part of womanhood.
That's right.
Yes.
That's good. Okay. And Ren, I thank you for your candidness in working through that and entering womanhood, what that felt like, even what it feels like. I don't think we're fully ourselves ever. We're always evolving into new people,
always
new
evolving.
beings. And I was present for the loss of your dad.
Yes.
So as if losing your mom at 4 isn't enough. Like, thanks, life, we're good.
Yes.
You've had to then again, but now as an adult, care for your dad while he was ill. I know you were at the hospital with him. You were his caregiver. And I actually honor you for that, because I know what it's like to care for a sick parent.
Yes.
So now it was like the roles were reversed. Renee first walked through that loss of a parent, and now it's like, let me help Renee walk through the caring of an ill parent, an aging parent. It's something we don't talk about enough.
No.
Right? So your dad being, I remember him as such a vibrant person, and I know you're still dealing with that transition, but I just want to, get your thoughts on what that period of your life was like, and perhaps even talk to the person you became through that.
Oh man, I feel like I'm still becoming as a result of that experience. Having to care for someone that cared for you is so challenging. And in many ways, although my dad remarried, and like I mentioned before, I had a stepmother that was great, I mean, he was still my mom and my dad. So having to see him at his lowest was very challenging. Also dealing with family members who didn't always understand the perspective I was coming from. Like, for example, my eating habits are very different than my dad at the time and most of his family members. So just working on introducing some of those new eating habits was a challenge. I would say that I literally grew up overnight just from being one of his primary caregivers. So yeah, the in a nutshell, I grew up overnight, having to deal with someone that's usually the one that's in control, for a lack of a better word, and now having to be in control and to show options to him and to debunk those options with him. In a lot of ways, though, I saw that he was proud of me and that he saw that a lot of the tools that he gave me, I was able to put them to use, even though those same tools sometimes cause some headbutting.
Sure,
I think at the end of the day, he was happy that I was there, and I'm happy that I was able to be there and walk through that journey with him. It was tough. Just thinking of it, I have goosebumps, but I wouldn't have had it any other way.
And I think you're demonstrating just that, that parent who was once your caregiver, having to take care of them, that's a growth tool in itself. Like just the act of doing it is the growth tool. And I think you're triumphant because of it. I think you're made better.
I appreciate that.
I think you are more whole and complete for that. And I want to know, like you said, you're still going through it. So what have you been doing to get past? And I can understand that grief it's a wave.
Yes.
There's days where it's a great day, you wake up, and then it's a not so great moment.
Yes.
Or it's a not so great comment or picture or experience.
Triggers.
Yes.
Sometimes songs trigger me.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize, that a song could do that to you.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm doing is therapy. I've done extensive therapy, and it's amazing because prior to this experience, it's not something that I would have ever imagined that I even needed.
Or considered.
I thought, girl,
you're good.
You're good. In fact, it's quite the opposite. So I'm still going through pretty extensive therapy. I'm a part of a couple of grief groups.
Yeah.
These communities are so valuable to me because there's a lot of things that people who haven't lost a loved one that's close to them, they just don't understand. Yeah. And the aspect of grief being non-linear is huge for me now because, like you said, I could be having a great moment now and 10 minutes later, I am drowning in tears.
You need a moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the things that my dad's passing showed me is that I actually had been grieving my whole life as a result of my mom's passing, or I should say for most of my life. So being able to work through those things and go back and fix some of the things that were not tackled during my childhood has been such a blessing, and it's so freeing. my dad and his wife did their best, but I really feel that that one thing that was missing was definitely getting my brother and myself help when my mom passed away. And another thing, I'm jumping around a little bit, but my mom in some ways prepared me for her passing. She had lupus.
Yeah.
And there were days when she was perfectly fine and days when she was in so much pain. So she would always tell me, like, listen to your dad and listen to your brother because I may not always be here. So I think that prepared me in some ways, and I didn't react in a way that most people would expect a child to because I understood. And I think that also shows me that children are sometimes taken for granted in regards to what they understand and what they soak up. I understood exactly what she meant when she said she wouldn't be here, but didn't understand the capacity of it. So having said that, the grief played out for me in many different ways. And being able to break those things down now in my adult years is such a gift. And like I said, I feel free because of it.
And I feel that. I think that energy and that feeling of freeness that comes out even when you're speaking to me, when we message, and it's a beautiful exchange. So I'm a believer that we don't experience trauma for nothing.
Yes.
We do not go through negative experiences for nothing. That can't be life. So you are the evidence of what it's like to be. I can't say you're all the way on the other side, but you are evidence
ways to go.
of the journey. So I respect
appreciate
you for being so candid about that. And it's something that I think that will prove valuable when one day you may have to, I know you already have, but have to walk a few more people through that experience. I think you're going to be that resource, and I couldn't think of anyone better.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. It means a lot. You have me all choked up.
Don't be. Trician Renee, you recently launched this really neat idea. I want to call it a movement. I will go ahead and call it a movement called the Love Light Collective.
Yes.
What is that? Why should everyone else know about it? What inspired it?
Okay, so the Love and Light Collective is exactly what you said. It's a movement. Right now, the first project from it is a YouTube children's learning channel called Love, Light, and Learn TV. And the inspiration from it came from just my experience of grief. From going through therapy, what I'd come to realize is a lot of the issues that I had growing up, compounded with the grief, also had to do with being a visible minority in the neighborhood that I grew up in. And so I want to just be the change that I wish I had for myself, and that is to just teach our children how to love themselves, how to feel beautiful, also to know that we're not only beautiful, we are smart.
Yeah.
Because I feel that a lot of Black children are told, oh, you're so cute, but how about what's in your brain?
What else?
You're thoughtful,
Yeah.
you're kind. And so that's what Love, Light, and Learn TV is pushing, is just that love and light for our youth. And after launching the first 2 episodes, I've been overwhelmed with a lot of great feedback, not only from the Black community, but from people outside of it, which
That's great.
I didn't expect.
That's great.
And the one thing that they are speaking of is, I'm happy that I have a visible minority on my TV screen so that my child who's 3 and 4 is exposed to this before they go out. Because we can only teach them so much in the home, but society actually shapes how they deal with other people unless there is other interactions before they hit outside. And I thought that was a very, very, very meaningful piece of feedback that, like I said, I never thought of before. So I'm grateful to be doing this. It's fun.
Renee, let us know, where can we find out about the Love and Light Collective?
So first stop should be my website, at theloveandlightcollective.ca. The links to all of my other social media is on there. On YouTube, I'm also The Love and Light Collective. On Facebook, also The Love and Light Collective. Instagram, this is where it changes a little bit. _ The Love and Light Collective _ and then Twitter, there's a little twist to it. This is at TLoveandLightC.
All right, that was an entire lesson I'm sure that you've given on your YouTube channel, but we're happy that you can bring this initiative forward, and I know that all of our children, all our younger ones, both children of color and children not of color, will be made better for it, so thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Renee, I am about to ask you a series of questions, which is something I love to do just as thought starters, and you're welcome to respond to them however you feel fit.
Lay it on me.
Sounds good?
Sounds great.
Okay, let's start things off with love is.
Love to me is all-seeing and all-knowing.
I know I am at peace when?
I'm at peace when I'm able to just embrace whatever emotion it is that I'm having. We're often taught to only bask in happiness, but why not bask in some of the things that make me sad? Why not bask in some of the things that make me angry? Because emotions are all temporary, and learning how to embrace them is the only thing that brings you peace once they pass. That's when I'm at peace.
And finally, I am most grateful for?
I am most grateful for my pageant experiences. Just linking it to the subject matter from before about womanhood. I would say that competing in pageants has taught me that life itself is like a beauty pageant. You're judged the way that people perceive you based on your looks, and then those feelings may change after you open your mouth. So it's really important to always make sure that you are at your best, even when you're not feeling your best, because it helps to bring your best to the front. So I'm grateful for my pageant experiences.
I love that. Renee, it's been my honor. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much. This was life-changing.
Grief is complicated. It's that one thing that can look different day to day and even moment by moment. The great thing about life is that we are in a constant mode of evolution, whether we choose to acknowledge it or not. We evolve into womanhood, adulthood, and even through life's most unexpected and unwelcome changes. The goal is not to be as prepared as we can for the traumas and hurts that life may allow, but rather celebrate the moments of triumph and truth that make it all a little more tolerable. What I know to be true is that nothing that happens in our life lacks purpose. It's up to us to pause and seek out the lessons that will ultimately guide us to our deepest growth. Thanks for taking the first step with me on this journey.